button. There we go. Thanks, Veldon.
Okay, today's word is glory. I am blessed to be part of the glory of God. I am a spiritual being, a glorious expression of God. As I live more fully into my divine nature, I better recognize my unity with life. Looking around me, I see the beautiful diversity of humanity. I also appreciate the vast variety of creatures on earth. Whether of earth, sky, or water, all creatures are glorious components of the universe. I give thanks for each one. I turn my attention inward. The glory of God within me is an inner kingdom where beautiful and loving thoughts live. Kindness, warm memories, inspired motivation, and peace. As I bring my attention to the realm of my consciousness, I create within me a world of majesty, splendor, and wonder that I also find in the world around me. As I do, I discover the glory of God everywhere. And from Psalm 19, the heavens are telling the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims his handiwork.
Thank you. Thank you, Lillian. I am blessed to be part of the glory of God. I am blessed to be part of the glory of God. Let's affirm that together. I
I
am
am
blessed to
blessed
be
to be
part
part
of the
of the
glory of
glory
God.
of the
of God.
glory of God.
Thanks and welcome, Kevin. So I would just,
Thank you.
I was uh, reflecting as Lillian was sharing the words on the sentence in this last paragraph about creating within me a world of majesty, splendor, and wonder. And the same majesty, splendor, and wonder I find in the world around me, as within, so without. And I couldn't help but reflect that this I create is the demonstration, or it's a way of the demonstration that we've been sharing in our reading together. So just wanted to point that out. And so we're on the great demonstration. And last week, we finished by reading paragraph 18. And before we move on to paragraph 19, I just want to check in and see if there's any reflection of the readings that we did last week that or insights or crazy thoughts that anyone may have had in the interim before we move on.
I heard an interesting acronym. I should say, an interesting acronym, and it was an acronym for God, and it was Go Outdoors. So it seemed to connect with the daily word today, and the glory of God, and just the amazing world that we live in, the natural world. And sometimes when the layer of the created world of man overlays the natural world, we forget to look through that to the natural world and find that nourishment and replenishment in it. And then just before I jumped on, I was listening to Hidden Brain, and it just happened to be on how nature heals mental health. And I won't bore you with everything, but it goes on to talk about different examples of medical examples of where people went out in nature, how it healed them, including PTSD, soldiers who were taught to surf as a way so it is really truly the glory of God. And it is what we focus on, to go back to Emmett and the golden key. It's like, what are you going to focus on? So that's my contribution this morning, is tying in the path.
Thank you. I also want to acknowledge Gretchen and Sandy have joined us, and good morning to you and everybody. Any other thoughts or reflections?
I came across a book from Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil.
Outwitting the Devil.
Yeah, great.
Our Think and Grow Rich friend.
Well, Napoleon is in a dialogue with the dark side within him. And I'm reading that. Interesting.
Feel free to share any insights that you glean from your reading.
And Leo, I'd be curious to know, not right now, but maybe next time, if he wrote that book before or after he wrote his Think and Grow Rich, which is his seminal book.
After, and his wife didn't want he published it. Then it was after his death. It was handed down to other people, and it was only published a few years ago.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. And I'm not really good at the names, but there is a Miss Lesner or something that published the book with her annotations, and I'm reading it now.
Cool. Thank you.
It was considered inappropriate at his time, 1938. But
so many things were considered inappropriate at their time of writing. I think of Mark Twain's famous Letters from Earth, which had to wait till after he died to be published.
Stranger in a Strange Land was redacted and only republished again after his death with more detail that apparently shocked people.
Thanks everybody for that. Anything else before we move on? Okay, we're in the section here on, let's see, what is sin? How is sin the cause of what is called death? And then we move to how may one overcome adverse states of consciousness called the devil, the adversary, or the accuser. And we read last week, the end of our time, Veldon read 17 and 18 for us. So let's pick up 19. Anybody willing to read paragraph 19?
I'll give it. Oh, you do, Veldon.
All right, Veldon's going to keep his role going here.
Okay.
For his streak.
Part of man's great problem is to learn how to overcome the adversary. To overcome it, he needs to know its character, that he may not be discovered by it.
Be deceived.
Yeah. He must also understand that the adversary is not his true self. Adverse states of consciousness keep their hold on man when he continues to believe they are part of his true self. When adverse states of mind express selfishness in some of its forms, jealousy, greed, lust, anger, envy, then man feels that he is a great sinner without redemption. He forgets that he is the sinless offspring of the perfect Father. He identifies himself with adverse states of mind and thus loses the consciousness of his heritage of divinity.
Okay, thanks. Just another paragraph with chock full of provocative ideas. Any reaction? Thoughts?
Sure.
Go ahead, Leo.
Oh, okay. I find I've been reading this whole stuff until 38 or something today, and I find it very simplistic. You know, the psyche is just measured on a scale, a flat scale, and it's sin or good or not good, while everybody that is in a state of error has a dynamic. And you cannot express that in just one flat scale and say it's that sort or that, it's the middle of that. There are thousands or more variables that come in effect. And yeah, this story was probably good at that time, but I think we have a more differentiated view of one's mind when one is in error.
Okay. Thank you.
There's one more thing I would like to add, and that is that this whole paragraph is so emphasizes the word sin, while we all know it's about missing the mark. So I wish that would be more highlighted.
Okay, and you'll notice that the word adversary is in quotes, so that means something too.
Yeah, well, that's nice. Yeah. I I met someone from Advaita, and she said something really lovely, and I will translate it in our situation, and I'd say unity plus non-unity is unity, and you're very good at that, Marty, too. You're always about if God is in good, God is in bad. So what are we talking about? Good, good. It's all good. It's a bit a similar thing. The adversary is in all of us.
Well, it goes to what you might be implying in what you said at the beginning, which is that we're dealing with a human condition by which the mind comes into consciousness from infancy and young childhood, believing in what is called sin, or believing in the things of the flesh, as Emily Cady says in Lessons in Truth. And so we're acculturated into this consciousness. We're acculturated into the human race consciousness of separation. And what we're working on here is overcoming, which of course is the name of one of the lessons that we've already read, overcoming, and that the psychodynamics of the human mind don't always make it easy to do that. I think there is a key to enlisting our psychodynamics in the work of overcoming, but that for many of us, that's a struggle to discover that key.
For me, it's a bit emphasized between judging and being judgmental. Judging being observing, but judgmental meaning adding a value and then talking about the value, no longer relating it to the original stuff.
And attaching to that value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm still not clear on your point about what you didn't feel was truth with a capital T about the state, about number 19.
You're talking to Leo or to me?
Yeah, Leo.
If I remember something in Genesis, it says God took something out of Adam and created Eve, and people keep on talking about Adam. I say, but Adam is not Adam anymore. Adam is Adam minus, and the plus went to Eve. So Adam and Eve together is what was previous Adam, and So when we are in duality and we do not realize that, it is easy to be judgmental about the things that are not good. And when we do that, we create the split. And when you create the split, you split your persona. And I believe our state right now, all over the world, that we are all split personas. And we need to reunite with the parts that we have sent away from us. But these parts have never been sent away. They only vanished into our subconscious. They hide there because they're still valuable to us.
And I don't know, the way I read 19 or listened to 19 was that, we start out, in a sense of oneness, not separate. And then our human consciousness believes there's a divide. And that divide comes about when we express selfishness in some of its forms, and we believe we're separate. And so what this is saying to me is, that's an illusion. Make your way back to the whole. That to me is kind of what this is talking about, that the adversary is not real, but it does show up, but it's just an illusion. I don't know, just in a different, I think we all come from different places and take our own experiences to apply them to Fillmore's words. Or I don't even know if this is Fillmore. To me, it doesn't sound like Fillmore, so I don't know who wrote this. But whoever did was really good at it.
Thank you for that dialogue, for this dialogue. Anybody else?
If you look at a coin, you always look at one side. Even there are two sides, you can see only one side. And there's something like that here too. And if we are in a state of oneness, I don't think you can see the adversary. You cannot see him because it's all one. There is no limit to your experience. It's how to say that? You cannot grasp it. But when you are in duality, there is a counter. And when there is a counter, there is something you can, I don't know how to say that, wiggle. I was looking the other day about, there is a way of propelling a boat. The Chinese do that. They have an oar and they put it in the back in the boat and they wiggle with that. But they imagine when you use an oar and you not take it out of the water, you cannot proceed. You cannot go forward or backward because you go up and down, but you keep the oar in the water and you go up and down. There's nothing you can do. So you have to take the oar out of the water to proceed. But the Chinese, they found a way to wiggle the oar in an eight, and that way the boat can propel. That means the Chinese use both sides of the oar. Is that a metaphor that comes over, or is it a bit too specific? I see Della grinning.
Not a metaphor, but I like the imagery and the idea.
Well, that's what everything we're doing here is trying to not look at the finger pointing at the moon, but to look at the moon itself.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us reach for different ways of saying this. So we started out today affirming there's only one presence, one power, one love active in the universe. And now we're talking about how the hell is that true in our experience?
And I keep thinking, did Jesus ever wake up on the wrong side of the bed?
Yeah, when he smote that fig tree, what was it doing? It was just like there. It was like doing nothing, you know. It's like, I don't want to hear around anymore.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the more tawdry parts of the Jesus biography got lost in history.
When
The
I
more
look at the chapter 9 or the paragraph 19, and I think about the duality inside of the with the adversary, I don't think that it's between the adversary and God. I think it's between the adversary and me, and that the way forward is the last sentence, which is remembrance, recognition, recalibration to what the truth is, which is I'm God's. And if there is any fighting of any particular adversary, that's between God and the adversary. And my job is to get out of the way. And the way I get out of the way is I let go of the elements, or I ask to let go. I ask for help in letting go of those pieces of selfishness. I actually think selfishness is an upgrade most of the time. I don't think most people are selfish, including me. I think most people are self-centered, that they only think of their own self in some way, and meaning I don't think about God, and that's what the idea of the split is for me. It's not even, it's like the adversary is the shadow that comes when I live in some kind of world where there's only me, and there's things that are that are pushing up against me, and that same pushing up against me for me is God, that says I'm right here and I'm in this with you at all times. And so sometimes I think the walk of faith is actually moving from self-centeredness, which is a clueless state of existence, to selfishness, which is the recognition of I really am angry and jealous and greedy and all those things, in order to come back to what is actually truth, which is divine heritage. So it's I'll say this and then turn it over to somebody else. What I love about the end of this is it's not about that I don't have a heritage, because there's sometimes a lot of the writings in Unity for me talks about kind of like the bunk of the generations, and it's like, yeah, that may be true, and I don't need to be beholden to generational transmission in the human form, but I have a heritage, and my heritage is being God's kid, and that is the thing to anchor into all the time. And I probably should say one more thing on this. When I look at some of the offshoots of Christian metaphysics, and one of them being the 12 steps. One of the things that I say that usually makes people bristle is that the 12 steps are about my relationship with God, and getting that right allows me to be in conscious community with other people. Because if I don't have that right, I'm looking at them and I'm not looking at the real relationship, which is between me and God. Thanks.
Well said. Anybody else before we move on to 19? What I like about the conversations that we have is there's always something in the next paragraph to illuminate what we've been talking about. All right, who would read number 20 and 21?
I will.
Okay.
The adversary helps to accuse man of sin. In Rev 12, this adversary is called the accuser. Every overcomer needs to be on guard that he may not be deceived by the accusing voice within him. God doesn't excuse his offspring of anything wrong. His eyes are too pure to behold iniquity. God constantly beholds man in the perfection of his spiritual nature. Man must learn to cast out all depression, all discouragement, all bondage to a belief in sinfulness as being a part of his nature. The image of truth, constantly repeated or reproduced in mind, will eliminate all other concepts, and the sinner will not exist because man's mind will have no image or reproduction of that thought. Thus, the act cannot exist either. Be fruitful and multiply. Genesis 1, verse 28. Be fruitful and multiply was the command, and this growth and multiplication of awareness of the divine image is the essential factor in life. A good overcoming statement is, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world, based on 1 John chapter 4, verse 4. That is, greater is the Christ in each of us than the adversary who is of the world.
Thanks, Leo.
That was a mouthful. Yeah.
And well said, especially by someone who's not got English as his first language.
I like to come back to what I said before, and that is that accusing is actually what I find I'm doing almost all the time. Only it's in a mild form, let me say mild form. Like when I look at, let's say, a blanket that is white and I give it 8 because I see it's not totally white. Or there are some stains and I say it's dirty. I already diminish that blanket to something of a lower quality. I had a courier that didn't deliver the goods he promised today, and I wasn't nice to him. So I put him down in myself. I recognize that. So yeah, I am the accuser of that particular event.
Okay, thank you. Other thoughts?
This paragraph also, or even more so, has to do with self-accusation and finding your way out of that as a practice.
Yeah. And how do we do that?
At minimum, affirmations.
Like the one at the end?
My experience is that denial and affirmation only get me so far. There's always some dirt left behind, and I need to strut a bit stronger in my nature.
Okay.
I think we ask for help. I think we ask God for help. We identify it and we bring it in prayer and bring it in meditation. You know, there's only so much that the mind, when it is in this place for me, can actually do by itself. And to think that I can do it by myself is not honoring my relationship with God.
Thanks, Gretchen. It reminds me of a story of the old Egyptians. The old Egyptians, they put a scarabee on the heart of the deceased, and it was to remind that one that passes over, when it comes to the area where it is being judged, not to accuse itself. And if I would translate that in our language, I'd say we need to learn to forgive ourselves more.
Yeah.
Well, that's this thing about God constantly beholds us in the perfection of our spiritual nature.
Yeah, but there is a counter to that. and I'm not good in the biblical stuff, but somewhere Jesus says what you forgive here is also forgiven in heaven. But
Right?
what you don't forgive here is also not forgiven in heaven. And that points to a stage in the past, passing over, where the the past life is scrutinized, let me put it that way, or judged, or whatever you want to call it.
Well, that's if we think of these things in terms of Western concepts of temporal linear time.
Oh, here we go. Thank you.
I'll also say that that's in Matthew, and Matthew has a very particular perspective of what Jesus is all about. And so, yes, I totally hear you, Leo, in that. And I think we could probably dialogue about that for a long time about what's the undergirding of that, and what is the gospel of the will saying? So I think that's what the gospel of Matthew. If Matthew's the will, then that's the gospel of the will from the will's perspective. And I think that's true.
Anybody else? Some of us have been awfully quiet. So God constantly beholds us in the perfection of our spiritual nature. And then we're invited to learn to cast out all depression, discouragement, and bondage to a belief in sinfulness as being a part of our nature. Anybody I'd be interested in hearing from anybody who'd be willing to share how this is working for you or not working, what your struggles have been or your triumphs in casting out depression, discouragement, bondage to belief in sinfulness as part of your nature.
I think that doesn't work. I don't think that works because it means that everything in this world tries to come to a balance. So, if you are at peace, there is a part that is at chaos. And everything that is on the utmost on one area of the balance has a counter on the other part of the say that yoke. Yeah. So what needs to be done, in my opinion, is that we need to step back and come to that center point and balance out what we call the good and the bad. And if we cannot decide, then give it over to the higher power.
Well, yeah. And my question is, how's that working?
It works for me. If I can come to that center point, but many times I still find myself on the judgmental part, and then it only comes afterwards, and I have to ask myself for forgiveness. I made another mistake.
All right, I get that. Anybody else? This is just a practical question. How's this work in practice?
It's hard. It's difficult. There's a saying, if you're going to start with forgiving and work on forgiveness, don't start with Hitler. So, it's like take it in the baby steps, the easier things to do and try to find commonality, I guess, with someone. And then see if you can, as Leo is saying, cast out your judgment and just be, I'll use a different word, just be aware that there's a difference. Not judging it, just, well, there's a difference here, because when you start condemning, what is that saying? One finger points at them and two fingers point back at you. So, there's such ouch. And then, how many fingers are pointing back if I'm pointing at you as well? There's actually three fingers in this. But so it's the neutralness. I think the Buddhists say, just let it go by. You see it, but you just let it go by. You don't let it hook you. It sounds easy, but it's not.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I had a practical event this week. I had a practical event this week, and that is here in Thailand, the courier is being taken over. I'm not allowed to say to the Chinese, but the Chinese are behind it, and that means all local courier services are being minimalized because they don't get the packages that earn their money, but the difficult cases, they get them because they have to, how you say that, give a price that is under market value. So they are outperforming and undercut with the price. So the guys that are not doing well for me are because those are couriers that are picked off from the street because they normally don't do courier, they are farmers or whatever, and then in the morning or the evening time they do the delivery. And guess what? They deliver to a farang. That means an outsider. They're scared. They're scared. They even don't ring me. I'm doing my best to even that out. And then I tell myself, okay, normally 3 times, and then it's okay. So today was number 4 of the same company that, well, wronged me is a big word, but okay, they didn't come up with a promise. So every time I give them feedback. And every time I have to look for myself what I usually did and what I'm doing now. And I'm not going over in an all-loving way. Because it's not right. I have to tell them, you promised delivery today and you didn't make it. Yeah? And how to express that. And that's what I do. That's my day-to-day here in Thailand community.
You know what they say, Leo?
Tell me.
They say before enlightenment, deal with lousy delivery service. After enlightenment, deal with lousy delivery service.
Actually, I can get along very well with a lot of the couriers here, and it benefits us both. At first, they are scared, really. They're really scared to come to a foreigner that is so straightforward. Let me put it that way. And then they find out there's a nice side of me. So they have to put up with the normal picture of a foreigner, and then they come to meet me. And I'm definitely not all sweet, definitely not. And they have to get used to that.
And they do.
And they do.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, wait, there's more. So we go from the adversary to the Christ. This is so Fillmorian. I love it. Who would be willing to read paragraph 22?
I would.
Thank you.
The Christ righteousness is our true spiritual nature. By faith in our Christ righteousness, sin is overcome. The Christ righteousness is not based on personal merit, but it is a heritage that is ours as sons of God. God's own nature of absolute good is our inherent perfection. We may manifest this perfection by claiming it and holding firmly to it in the face of all appearances set up by the adversary. If we claim our divine heritage, we know ourselves as the sons of God, free from all sin, and refuse to be identified with adverse states of mind. We shall overcome all sin. If we claim our divine heritage, know ourselves as the sons of God, free from all sin, and refuse to be identified with adverse states of mind, we shall overcome all sin. Consequently, we shall also overcome death, for death can come only through sin. Our realization that sin has no power except what we give it by believing in and making ourselves one with it makes this overcoming more easy to accomplish. Christ is truth, and righteousness is the functioning of truth in the mind of man.
Wow, thanks, Della. This is another one of those paragraphs. Just a few minor points.
Well,
What do we read? What do we hear? What do we react to?
well, my reaction maybe shock some of the Fillmore fans. I don't believe that that can be overcome because we are experiencing the duality, and to experience it, we have to use non-perfect parts. Let me put it that way. And I read all of this, so I can see Charles believe that all parts can be made beautiful. Maybe, but I haven't seen that yet. Even with accomplished masters, I see they still have parts that are left behind. And it should be so, I believe, because if you were all fulfilled, you wouldn't be in this dimension. You cannot hold on to this dimension. I don't believe that. This physical body I have is my anchor point in this I don't know how you call it.
Dimension?
Yeah, but it's more than just dimension. It's time, space,
Yeah.
continuum. Yeah.
Okay. Leo tries to shock the Fillmorians. Thank you. Other thoughts?
I read a quote recently that I don't remember the specifics, but it has to do with something happens and we respond or react internally or externally. And the important thing of life is to hold some space in between so that you don't live only out of the reaction and the response, but you can think about it more carefully. And I like the idea that what's being suggested requires being in that middle space.
Okay. Can you say more about that?
I think it's
I mean, how does that show up?
it's tempting to see something happen and not be able to be in Christ's righteousness.
Could you
Right.
call it like the mindfulness?
Yeah. And maybe practical mindfulness, because we are all in the world. So how we are present in the world, how we react in the world, how we
Well-
assert in the world comes best out of mindfulness. And then that can get us closest to Christ's righteousness.
Okay.
Well, we can use breathing because the breath is breathe out, breathe in, and in between there is a space. We can practice to make that space a bit bigger.
Yes.
And I believe that is a way to create time to be mindful in the world.
Other thoughts, comments, other non-Fillmorian insights?
Yes,
Well,
I have trouble with that whole paragraph because they keep referring to sin,
Right?
and I don't accept that I was born into sin or anything else, and I think I need to, whoever wrote this, do use the word sin in parentheses and then define what sin is. And as previous lessons here, we've decided that sin is negative thinking or accepting of things that aren't really true. So sin is our negative thinking about things, but they keep referencing this so much it's a little hard to. I have to every time I see the word sin, I have to stop and define what it really means.
Okay. You have to turn on your translator.
Yeah.
Okay. But once you do that, does the paragraph then make sense?
Well, I don't I don't view things very much in a negative sense anyway. So
Then I take it, I throw in a bone. If there is no sin, there is no progression.
Yeah, because how can you have betweenness without the duality?
That makes the suggestion that you have to be sinful in order to make progress. That does not make sense to me.
I think that another way to conceive of that, Diane, is again, Emily Cady says in the first chapter of Lessons in Truth, we are all born in the belief and bondage to the flesh and the things of the flesh.
But we
So
know that is an
the
error.
question is whether you're born, if we were all born in recognition of our true heritage as children of God who inherit no disease, inherit no sin, we never fall short, then we probably wouldn't need to be having any of this conversation. So this is for those of us who were not raised believing in our supreme glory, as the Daily Word says, but rather in believing that we have all fallen short from the mark, and that falling short from the mark, as implied in the first chapter of Genesis, is our heritage. So, yeah, what you said is true. But how many of us started out there?
None.
I didn't. That's all I can't talk for anybody else, but
Well, from the beginning, we're all told, oh, you're a bad little kid, or this is going to, somebody's going to get you.
right.
So we can't say, oh, I was, born perfect.
I'll give you something to cry about.
Yeah.
When I was young, first of all, I'm born on the birthday of my 3-year older sister. And she always insisted I was the present of God to her. And I can tell you, a lot of people who try to, how to say that, damn me. And I'm still wearing some of that. I'm getting rid of it, but it takes time.
Yeah. Okay, so this phrase caught my eye. Death can only come through sin, or as Veldon points out, death can only come through falling short. And so for me, this is a very loaded statement. And I think it's worth spending some time contemplating. So one way to interpret this statement, I'm not saying it's the only way, one way to interpret it is that we all die because humanity is sinful.
Well, I think it depends on your personal experience in life. And if people go along with that sentence, I wish them good luck. I'm not, because I have experienced that there are different things in the world, things that are not in the books anywhere. So I say there is whatever people are describing, it's not describing what I experienced in this world. So I say there is more.
Okay.
Diane,
that is-
will you give us your definition of sin again?
Error of thought.
Error of thought.
Yeah, it's pretty succinct. I'm impressed by part of this paragraph 22. When if we know ourselves as the sons of God and claim our divine heritage, that speaks to me strongly of Myrtle Fillmore when she claimed, I am a child of God, and regarding her physical condition. And she claimed her divine heritage in that one statement. I am a child of God. And says when you really believe that and refuse to be identified with these adversarial states of mind, you overcome all sin. And she said, I do not inherit sickness. And she proved it that way. It took time, but I keep coming back to her wisdom. She claimed her divinity and she manifested her pure because she denied the power of error thinking. That's what I get out of that. That's what makes sense to me here. And I sort of struggle with that paragraph like most of the rest of us.
So then it says, consequently, we shall all overcome death,
Yeah,
for death can only come through error of thought.
there you go.
It doesn't hook us on that like S word.
What's
Yeah,
that?
but one could point out that Myrtle Fillmore died.
Yeah, however she chose to. According to, I don't know, the story I heard, she said goodbye to all of her staff and said, I think my work is done here. Went up and said, I'm going to go take a nap. Went upstairs
Wake up.
and died.
That's right.
I mean, she laid down her physical body, but her soul didn't die. We all know that. Or, she's like, job done,
I believe there are thousands of people that can do that right now, just without any study, they can do that. And there are youngsters among us that make, how you call them, cartoons. What they are doing, they are educating people that this can be done. And the younger generations than us, they are lifting their sins away by looking at these cartoons.
Are you saying cartoons?
Cartoons, yes, cartoons.
I have trouble with the thing you've highlighted, Marty, which is consequently we can also overcome death. That death can only come through sin. Well, are they referring to the death when our bodies die and we go away, or are they referring to death and just in terms of thought?
Well, Veldon, I think you've keyed on what I think is something worth discussing. And that is what is meant by life and death. And we tend to be biological here. And I'm not sure that that's the only way to understand what's being said metaphysically.
Can I say a little bit about the Egyptian way? Because I believe that we can cultivate our dream world, and in the dream world, we can exercise our ethereal body. And once you are confident enough it's easy for us to lay off this thing here. We can just lay it off because we know we will go on, because we are confident that our eternal body will go on.
And that is not the only tradition that has a discussion of what we're talking about here. I mean, the Tibetan Buddhists also have a way of have an insight into this that's non-materialistic. Our challenge is we're Westerners,
Yeah.
Western culture.
And you have the tool.
We're very grounded in materialistic thinking, and the old scientists, the old science, or the crude form of science was just, if you can't prove it, it doesn't exist. You can't prove it in a laboratory, it doesn't exist. And that's clearly not the only way to consider these things.
Well, if you go back to what Diane was saying about what Myrtle Fillmore did, and you realize that this is the teachings of the Fillmore, perhaps if you look at her point of view was, I believe it was obvious with tuberculosis that pretty clear that she would probably die of that. And so I can see if she reaches a point of the consciousness of overcoming that, then that's perhaps what this means is for death can only come through sin. In other words, through believing or accepting her situation, it could come. But consequently, if they overcome death by her clearly thinking and saying, I'm not born in sin and so forth, then perhaps that's how that got into that paragraph.
Yeah.
I would like to consider something else. If you have you ever awakened in the morning, and just before the you is there is something else. There is something that is spacious, light, and then all of a sudden look like you take on the bones and the skin and the burden of this day. You ever experience that? Because if you experience that, I think that is what's happening if you pass over. You pass over, you lay down your burden of this life.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there with that provocative question from Thailand. And thank you, Leo. Thanks, everybody. We'll pick this up next week. And before we close out, let's share our prayer for protection. Together, the light
of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us.
The power of God
protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Thank you, everybody.
Marty.
Thank you, everyone.
Always great to be with you. Learn something every week. Take care.